What is going on, everyone? Welcome into BP Insights. All right, so let's get into it. So, one of the main problems right now is, a lot of women just do not want average men. If you look at statistics, women are going for the top 10% of men, and that's just, man, that is just tough. To me, I kind of feel what the average man feels because, okay, to me, I'm nothing special. I know that, but I'm 6'3". I've gotten in shape. I've worked really hard in the weight room the last 2 years, and I get quite a few looks from women, but still I deal with a lot of rejection, a lot of flakes. So I'm thinking, as a 6'3" in shape man, if you're dealing with issues, I couldn't imagine what a short man who maybe is a little out of shape is feeling. That guy, that guy is having a tough time because it doesn't get easier. That's the thing. You look at statistics right now, about the top level men close with about 10% of women. So, like with me, I've done a stats. I've approached 16 women. I was 0 for 16 at one point. That's just kind of how it goes. There's just some serious lows when it comes to dating, and women don't understand it. I'm listening to Darius M's podcast. I talked about this. I joined him last week. Shout out Darius M. If you get a chance, make sure to go check out his channel. But he's talking about how he made the best point, and I think about this a lot. Why don't women just, I guess I know the answer to it, but I'll kind of pose the question. I know the answer for the most part, but why don't women just, they deal with all these guys. They talk to all these guys in the dating apps, and they get all these guys' number at the coffee shop and at the gym. They don't really like, they're not really attracted to. They'll just text them a little bit just to get that attention, validation, feel good about themselves. But why don't they actually approach a guy in person they actually really like instead of just awkwardly staring at him or fixing their hair and awkwardly making awkward looks and quick glances and stuff like that? Why don't they just approach that guy? I guess the answer sometimes can be a little bit more complicated, but the simple answer to this question is women do not like rejection at all. And the main reason why they don't like rejection is because you got to think about it this way. If a guy rejects a girl, it's because her looks, a lot of times it's just because she does not look up to par. And looks are so important for a woman. Looks are that is what they hang their hat on. So if their looks aren't up to par, that just destroys her ego. And why are women's egos so big? Their egos are so big because on dating apps and even in person, a lot of times, especially if they're a very attractive woman, they're getting approached so often. They're getting so many matches on dating apps that their ego is just pumped through the roof. So that goes why they don't approach men, because if they approach a man and he rejects them, it's a lot of times they're going to assume, that's what they're first going to assume, it's based off they don't look up to par. And if they don't think they look up to par, or at least if they don't think they look good or at least up to par, then that's a major hit for their ego. But yeah, dating apps are so trash. I can't do dating apps anymore. Dating apps, I say this: if you want to waste time and you want to get frustrated, go on a dating app. That's exactly what those things are. If you want to waste time and be frustrated, stay on Tinder, swipe all day, text girls, no replies, one-word answers, girls that pretend to like you, flakes. If you want all that crap, it's all right there on dating apps. If you want to, you can actually just waste. If you're playing Call of Duty, drinking Mountain Dew, if you just want to waste a lot of time, do nothing on the day, absolutely productive, you can just add to that, do Tinder. Because a lot of women, they just do not. Look, this is not just me talking crap. There's women on social media that say this. They actually just get on there, and I've talked to women in person about this. They get on there just to see how many matches they can get. They have no intention of meeting up with you. As a man, isn't that kind of crazy when you think about it? As a man, you get on a dating app to potentially, some men are just, they're on a dating app to really find a girl that they like, they can spoil, take on dates, drive-in movie, da-da-da. There's women on there on dating apps just to see it's like a game, just to see how many matches they can get. And I'm not just talking crap. This is women have told me this. Women say this on social media. They are on dating apps to see how many matches they get. It's just a game. It is a silly game, dating apps. But yeah, I mean, on Darius M, we were talking about, or they were. I wasn't in this live, but they're just talking about, why in person's better, because, just, in person's better because you have a face to remember. You have at least you've made somewhat of a connection in person. Online is online. It's just like It's just you're looking at some pictures, some stupid bio. That's not really funny, and that can be, some guys' bios isn't funny either. So, you're going off a few pictures, a stupid bio, some cheesy pickup line you send her. It's just dating apps. It's just all bull crap, and you got to think all that time. Like I look back and I think all that time I spent on dating apps, that's all time I could have used to get better social skills and improving talking to women in person. That's the thing. Those 16 women that rejected me, that sucked. Those are all in-person approaches at the gym, in stores, wherever. I can't remember. Mostly they were all in a store or in the gym. Was there another one that was I can't remember. I think they were all just. But besides that point, all that time, I would say those 16 approaches in real life were more valuable than spending hours on a dating app. It just. When you're on a date, you just you feel like you're just not being productive. You feel like you just are. It's just like when I picture and I think about dating apps, you picture someone's thumb just like this. I remember getting Tinder Gold. I know some people had some Tinder Gold. A lot of times you're just seeing people's thumb just swiping and swiping, just swiping away. It's just. I recommend staying off of dating apps. I would not do it. But yeah, there's a lot of ways, in person. Let's talk about in person approaches. So there's a lot of ways to approach in person. There are a lot of different places you can approach in person. You can approach in the gym. You can approach at nightclubs. You can approach women. Just about anywhere. If you've got enough confidence, if you're feeling good. Excuse me. You can make any approach work. But yeah. So bars and clubs. What I would say for bars and clubs is the main thing you want to do. Go in with the mindset you're gonna have to talk, and that means you start talking right away. When you see the bouncer, you make a comment about something. When you're in line with people, you talk to the people you're in line with. You just want to talk and try to. You just want to get in a social flow. And what's important about if you want to hook up with a girl at a bar or nightclub, the number one thing you got to realize is she has to find you somewhat attractive. If you're talking to a girl at a bar or nightclub and she's not at least open she's not at least open to talk to you. Like I'll never forget there were these two guys that came out of nowhere and they were talking to these two girls. And I could tell they weren't really attracted to him, but the way they came onto the dance floor, they were open to guys coming up to talking to them. So that means that even though they didn't find them somewhat attractive, girls that are open to guys approaching them, those are the women you're going to have to focus on, because there's just going to be for whatever reason, and it can happen throughout the course of a night. It could happen because they actually have a boyfriend. I don't know what they'd be doing at a nightclub. If they had a boyfriend, but there are some, like, if they are closed off, or if they just become like too drunk, they feel sick, or they're in a bad mood, or they're taking care of a girl, or they're taking care of their friend who's too drunk, and if they become closed off, you do not want to approach those women. So you want to talk to women who have open body language, who find you somewhat attractive. So That's what I noticed. But yeah, I noticed those. What's funny about that story is I remember those two girls came on the dance floor and they were kind of fixing their hair around me and my friend. So I don't know if they were attracted to me. It was just my one buddy. I don't know if they were attracted to me or my one buddy. But yeah, I remember those two guys just came. It's funny, when guys shoot their shot, it a lot of times on the dance floor, it is, aggressive. I think it's a lot of guys, they just don't want to overthink it. I remember they just came out of nowhere and they were just like, the girl, I was kind of watching, I was keeping an eye on their body language but you can tell how I don't know. I would say maybe they were somewhat interested, but because they were open to talking to him. But I don't think based on looking at their facial expression, they were all that interested in those two guys. They weren't the worst looking guys. The one guy was pretty tall. I think he was like probably 6'1", maybe 6'2". But yeah. There is, I've noticed sometimes there is some harsh rejection on the dance floor. I think it's just, some women just want to send a message that they want no part of, there's some guys they just don't want any part of. But yeah, it makes you, to me, those girls though, when other guys see that makes, that really makes other guys kind of timid. I remember that it might have been that same night. There was another girl that was just rejecting dudes. She said something pretty harsh to a guy that came up to her. But yeah, that's just how, there is some. If you're especially attractive girls, there is times where if it's a guy who's kind of out of shape, not the best looking guy, if he approaches them, they can be. It's not that they're necessarily being rude, but they kind of are just like. They are like they're dismissive. Like that's kind of just like you ever talk to when I'm at work and someone comes to the register and they're on their phone and they kind of I'll say hi. They'll maybe say hi. They kind of are. It's like they're that's like they're dismissive. That's like the last thing on their mind. That's kind of how it is when a attractive woman gets approached by kind of a dorky dude. It's not that they're just completely tune them out, but it's just it becomes like. It's almost like if you see like an ant kind of crawling by you, you probably are aware of it, but it's just small, insignificant. And I'm not beating. It sounds like I'm just bashing, guys who are a little overweight, not the best looking guys when they approach attractive women. But that's just kind of how they think. They don't. Especially attractive women who have an abundance of not only options online but in person, they really do not. They really have no tolerance for when a guy that does not meet their standards approaches them. But with that debate or that discussion, kind of debates what they were talking about on Darius M's podcast. They're talking about how. So they had a discussion about how. What was I going to kind of lost my train of thought. They had a discussion about why you shouldn't approach why guys shouldn't approach average women. Because Darius made the best point. A lot of times if you approach an average or below average girl and you get rejected, you feel even worse off. And that's the funny thing, and I think a lot of guys think this, that approaching below average or average women is easier. But it's really not much easier. It is. That's the thing. Like, you think a lot of guys think it's easier in their mind, but it's really, once they reject you, then you're just like, what the heck? I could have just, like Darius said, there was an average woman that was giving him kind of choosing signals in the store. What he could have just shot his shot. But he made the point, that I could have shot my shot with her, but why not just go and shoot my shot with an attractive woman, And that's the thing. I've never had very attractive women have actually been the nicest to me. Now, that story I tell kind of was counterintuitive to that, but the story I talk about how sometimes, there was one attractive woman I remember I checked out at my store I work at. I remember she just was not looking, made no eye contact with me, not looking at me, just kind of wanted, but she wasn't. It was not like in a rude, disrespectful way. That's just that's to me. That's you won't get rudeness from very attractive women when you approach them. You won't like get disrespect. It's more so just, well, maybe a tad bit of disrespect, but it's more so they're just. It's almost like if they're doing like they kind of will look as if like they're doing like something's boring. They were just it's not like I remember I approached this girl who was really attractive. She's one of the more attractive girls that goes to my gym. I remember she came into where I work, and I approached her, and she gave me the number, but when I was talking to her, she wasn't really paying attention to me. She was still kind of looking at the clothes. She did look at me like briefly, like I just introduced myself, shook her hand. They will look at you briefly, but yeah, it's almost like they're more, they're not. So that's why, I listened to Trip Advice. He was talking about, the number one thing you should ask yourself before you approach a woman that you think is interested is she paying attention to you? That is key. Is she paying attention to you? And if so, that's probably, once you answer that question, then that's the next step. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting all the looks you'll get as a fairly attractive guy. Like, it's interesting, you watching girls play with their hair, kind of fluff it out. I remember there's a girl that came in last night. There's sometimes I kind of just, it's amazing to me how quickly women can pick up that you're watching them. I'll be looking at a girl. It's crazy. It blows my mind how quick women are to sense when men are watching them. I'll be looking at a woman across the store, and she knows that she can sense that I'm looking at her. I'm just like, it's crazy the ability, the sense women have. She'll fix her hair. She'll kind of glance and look at me. It's funny how, there's women that I don't think I think they're married, but like I'll be walking by them and they'll look at me and they'll try purposely hard to look away. But then when you walk by, they'll give you like a really quick glance just because they want to look at you again. It's so funny the way women watch men. It's very, very interesting. And that's the thing. I was so clueless a few years ago, even in college when I was starting to go, when I was going out frequently doing pickups. I didn't even know. That's how clueless I was. I wasn't even really aware about that choosing signals were a thing. Like I had no idea choosing signals really were a thing. Like I thought that they were, I thought that, women, never really looked at men. If you approached them, you had some game. To me, I think that was the mistake I made in college. I think that, I should have, number one, not went to the bar as much, probably at all. Approached actually more women around campus that probably would have been more feminine, not as as promiscuous, not as as much, not as out in the mix as girls at bars and clubs. But I should have known I should have understood that. That game is not the end all be all, and there needed to be some sort of choosing signal. Now, I got some choosing signals, but for some reason I didn't get as many back then. I think I've obviously looked better now because I've done some work in the gym. I've noticed my face is thinned out because of this diet. But not that I looked bad back then. I was still in pretty good shape, even though I was drinking quite a bit. But to me, it's crazy how, I noticed that, there'd be some nights I would just spam approach. I'd approach women after women, and it's just kind of like, it just became like a vivacious cycle of just, to me, I guess what I'm trying to say is I was approaching too many women with just medium interest, and that, to me, if there's one thing that's exhausting when it comes to dealing with women, it's number one, approaching women who have medium interest. Or it's number one is chasing women, and number two is dealing with women who have low to medium interest. Doing those two things really just becomes exhausting. Because that, once you've done that so much, you've chased women, you constantly approach women with medium to low interest, that just becomes so exhausting that you really start to not really have a dislike for women, but you kind of just like, you almost just want to be like, I don't even want to deal with women at all. And that becomes a kind of a scary hole to go down. That's why I've tried so hard to, okay, if I think a woman's interested, I'll approach. If she's not, if I text her, if there's any sort of disinterest, or she's not making things easy, you can tell she doesn't like, just, do not text her anymore, move on. I've learned to just move on. That's what you have to make an emphasis, just to move on. And just, don't even text her, if she's not interested. But that's the thing. That's what you got to realize is you're going to find women that are really interested in you, really like you, and that's going to make you appreciate some of those hard times. But you got to understand that, don't chase is what guys hammer home. Don't chase. And what they mean by that is, see, guys get this twisted when you say don't chase women. They think that means, I'm not going to approach women at all. No, that doesn't mean don't approach women at all. What that means is, if you get a girl's number, say at a grocery store, ask her to hang out, she says no, or she flakes, or she does something, maybe you can ask again. But after that, you just cut your losses and move on. You do not keep texting her. You do not, because think about it. When you're texting her, you're wasting time. That's time you could be used to make your money, work for your business. You're wasting time. So you just got to cut your losses. And there's sometimes women will pretend to like you. You just have to know when to move on. So yeah. Dating, it's tough these days. Women, what are I don't know the exact statistics, but to me, look, I know you need people want statistics to back up things, but I can tell you right now, I guarantee that the stats that women find 90% of men unattractive, there's one study that said 80%. I'm sure it's probably 90% just because, that's just, women are so savage. Like that's the thing. That's why men are envious of guys that, there's tall, like especially tall, really good looking guys. And if they even have status, like look at the Nelk boys. They talked about how sometimes, girls were just already just, I want to hook up with Kyle from Nelk. And because it's just because, that's why but you got to think those guys have done the work. I've hammered this home, but we can go down this to have this discussion again. Tiger Woods, as much as he is beat up, Tiger Woods had to become something in life to have access to all those women. That's the thing guys don't realize is, to me, that's the thing. You can, people can rip on, well, obviously it's easy for Tiger Woods to get women. He's Tiger Woods. Well, Tiger Woods was, as a man, you got to realize you're born with no value. So even though Tiger Woods was hitting a golf ball at 2 years old, I guess it sounds weird to say, but he had no value as a 2-year-old. And that doesn't mean I'm not, obviously, he's not old enough to sleep with women at that age, but you're born with no value. At that time, at 2 years old, he was just learning golf. So he was not a superstar yet. But from the time he was 2 years old up until he became a man, he put in hours to become great at golf, become influential in the game, really change the game. And he gave himself the access to hook up with those women. And that's the thing. If Tiger Woods was if he was the average Joe, I talked about this the other day. If he was the average Joe that worked at the Marathon gas station, let's say he looked the same now. Let's say he was still training with, he still was in really good shape. How tall is Tiger Woods? Is he 6 foot? I don't know. I guess he's not short. Fairly attractive guy. Could he still get some women? Probably. But would he have hooked up with all those women, a lot more of those attractive women, and it would have been that easy? Probably not. Actually, probably not. No, but he still had success with women, maybe. But yeah, it would not have been as smooth sailing for him. But yeah, that's what's interesting about the Tiger Woods situation. Everyone feels bad for his wife, but why do you feel bad for his wife? She's already won. She got the house, she got the kids, she's got the nice cars, probably the watches. Why do you feel bad for her? She already had won in that situation. So that's the thing. Tiger Woods, even though he cheated on her and did all that stuff, she was the one who's got the keys to the house. She's got the car, the kids. But that's just some women still just want have the delusion that a guy like that is going to be exclusive to them. That kind of comes with the territory. I know Fresh and Fit hammer this home. That comes with the territory of dealing with a guy who's in the top 1%, sometimes even the top 5, 10%. Is guys are going to want to cheat. They're going to want to get with multiple women. That's kind of just the nature that's just kind of how men are wired. But yeah, let's see what else do we want to discuss here. So yeah, I think it's interesting when I'm talking to women on the register. And to me, I've struggled with social skills for a long time. I know I do these podcasts and these shows. You wouldn't guess that, but it's interesting. There's days when I'm feeling like a little bit shy, timid, and not very confident. I've noticed that a lot of women will approach and they'll be open, and I think they'll find me attractive, but they'll see that I'm not really, for whatever reason at that time, I'm not really confident in myself, and I've noticed they tend to like close off. And that's the thing with women that kind of really stirs their mind, like, he's attractive, tall, attractive, but why is he being timid? Why is he not confident? Does he not get girls? Is he weird? Is he not a cool guy? So they immediately shut off and they immediately start to kind of question me. So that's one thing I've really noticed. But well, yeah, what's interesting about married women is they tend to be smiling, paying attention to me, but yeah, one part of their body is closed off, just enough to show that. I think that's enough. It's enough for them to kind of reaffirm in their mind that they're not open to pursuing anything more than just a casual conversation. Because I notice they'll cross their arms, cross their legs, but they will still be paying attention to me. It's really interesting how married women really go about that. Yeah, but we talk about the dating scene right now. We talk about how it's tough for men to deal with so much rejection. You talk about like you have an average guy. He goes out and approaches. Let's say he goes to the bar. It's Thursday night. We used to. Me and my buddies would go out Thursday night. A college bar or Fridays. He's taking average, the most average looking guy you can think of. He goes out tonight and he's having a good time with his buddies. He goes out and approaches maybe 10 to 15 women. All those women are dismissive, kind of shoot him down. He gets a lot of, I have a boyfriend. Now that happens once, that's how it goes. But say that happens 2 or 3 more nights, that is brutal. Like that is, now you're looking at like what, 0 for 30, 0 for 45. That can really do a number. That's the thing about approaching women. That can really do a number on your confidence. And you can say, oh, well, they, brush it off. I mean, but when you're failing over and over, I don't care how mentally tough you are, that is brutal. This one guy, I posted something about that on TikTok, and this one guy said he was 0 for 63. And I'm thinking that might be a little bit of an exaggeration. But to me, that you can have those type of streaks. I would assume that guy is probably on a dating app is why he's 0 for 63. But to me, it could be in person. But I think it could be just a lot of, maybe he has a big social circle and he's trying with girls in a social circle that he knows are not really, that he knows are like medium interest. That's another thing I noticed. Another thing I noticed is social circle game is really hit or miss. to be honest, because it's just like that's kind of how I met my girlfriend, was kind of a little bit of social circle game. To me, it's hit or miss, because to me, if the girl, sometimes a girl will like you, but she'll be a little bit shy and intimidated to approach you. That'll make it an easier transition for her to approach you. But a lot of times in the social circle game, men can be confused, because women who are friends of friends, like when you meet them, they can be nice and cool with you at first, but and not really. It's like, what's weird with women is they can show a little bit of interest. Like, they can not really like you, but they can show like a tad bit of interest. Like, I think that girls are just like that around guys that are attractive, even if they don't like them. They just show, like, the way they talk to them at first, they do kind of give off almost like some bit of initial interest, but then you find out that they just don't really like you, and they can grow to really not like you, which is weird. So that's why social circle is hit or miss, because I think sometimes it's like, if the girl is really interested in you, it helps you not miss out on a girl that actually genuinely likes you, because you'll see her more frequently. But if she doesn't like you, then and you try to approach her, things can just kind of become weird in that, when you hang out with the one friend, that's the downside of social circle game. I remember one guy was talking about, if you live in a small town, social circle game is probably the way to go. But because, in a big city, you got to think in a small town. I was thinking about this in a small town that does not have a college campus. There's only so many 18 to 24-year-old women. Obviously, you can drive to, you can get on. Maybe in that case, that's the case for dating apps, is living in a small town. Obviously, you can drive to the nearest city, I guess, if you and go out to. Just get out, walk around, go out to, a bar, club, if you want to just, approach women that way. But yeah, that's the thing, kind of in small towns. That's what I'm kind of thinking about. I work in a city where there is a huge college campus, so there is frequent amounts of 18 to 24-year-old women. But that's the thing, I made the video, you don't see a lot of 9s and 10s out in public, and that's especially the case if you live in a small town, because it's just a numbers thing. There is only so many 18 to 24-year-old, 25, even like 18 to 28, 30-year-old women that live in a small town. Because you got to think, if a small town's got a population of, I don't know, 10,000, or what is like a population of a small town? 20,000. What statistically are the odds? A lot of times, smaller towns just have a lot of older people, and then like, middle-aged or 30, 40-year-old people that have young kids. So that's the thing about small towns. Sometimes small towns are when you're gonna have to use a social circle game. And then even in cities, I know the city where I live, it's one of the worst for singles, and there's just not, I don't know. I guess I don't know why that is. I would say just because there is a couple universities close by here, but there's not like a huge big college campus. Guys talk about, that is kind of key for men, even if like obviously if you're in a city, there's always a mass amount of young, attractive women if you're in a big city. But if you're in even like a smaller mid-sized city and there's a college campus, then that's really good for men, because then there's a more of a abundance of younger women. And obviously men prefer younger women, mostly in the 18 to 24 range. But all right, so yeah, let's talk about things to do on first dates. So my thing with first dates, I kind of just, for some reason, P.F. Chang's always comes to mind. I don't know why, but I just like to go get food. I think that, you're just, when you get food, you can just, obviously you feel good. You're eating some good food, and then you can just have like a normal conversation sitting across from them, looking at them. Movie is not always the best because you don't really get to talk. You don't really get to know the girl. You don't always really get to assess, do they like you or do you actually like her? So that's the thing about a movie. And the thing with a movie is, you might be sitting in a theater with like a bunch of loud people, and that, that's kind of annoying. And I think that, when you go to dinner, you can kind of show more that you're like a leader in the interaction. You can hold the door for her, leader. If you pick her up, you can, you take her there. You can kind of lead her in the restaurant. You can show that you're more. You can show more you're an alpha leader, dominant type of guy that's going to take initiative. So I think that's what's good about going to dinner on first dates. But yeah, I think the way to look at dates so you're not as nervous. Because I remember the date I was on, months ago back in February. I just remember being so nervous because I hadn't been on a date in a long time. This is stuff, this is stuff I don't always want to discuss, but just since I'm on my podcast, you might as well discuss. When you're so nervous, I just naturally have a lot of anxiety. You're kind of just, you naturally just do some weird things. I just couldn't lead. I remember the hostess came and took us to the table, and the girl led the way to the table, and I'm just like, man, I can't. I'm so nervous right now. I got a million thoughts. I can't even lead the interaction. The conversation went okay. I think, to be honest, what happened there, my ego was in the way. I think that I liked her. I think I didn't dislike her, but I think I was trying to do things to make her like me so I wouldn't feel bad if she rejected me, which is not good. But I think that I more so agreed to the date because I thought she was attractive. I thought she was super into me. Turns out I think she saw me more as a friend, especially because I kind of was just acting weird on the date. But to me, I guess I shouldn't have... I shouldn't say I shouldn't have went on the date because it was a good experience, but it probably wasn't. I wish I would have I should have kind of got to talk to her more at the gym when I met her, and at least it was an I guess that'll lead me to the next point. That's why you got to approach girls in person because, it seems like it's a smoother transition to the date. And we're kind of talking about this on the podcast. When you don't approach a girl in person, where when you approach a girl on a dating app, she tends to be, or when you go on a date with a girl on the dating app and you meet her for the first time, that to me that's just so awkward. It's just a lot more weird. Like I remember I had some girls come over from dating apps, and I was just thinking like, I was almost more nervous for that. And like a lot of times we just hung out, and I was almost more nervous for that, like just having the girl come over from the dating app. I don't even know why, just because like for whatever reason, it's just because we've not made that initial connection in person. When you go on a date with a girl that you'd already met in person, at least she has you have a face. You've already kind of gotten some of that uncomfortableness out of the way on the first approach. Like when I approached that girl in the gym that I went on the date with 8 months ago back in February, I had already kind of gotten a lot of the nerves out of the way. I was nervous approaching her. She looked at me and smiled. She was on a machine by me, but that's the good thing. I wanted to. Yeah, that was the good thing about that is, that helped me with the I was still nervous for this date, but I think as nervous as I was, I think I would have been more nervous if I hadn't approached her in person. So, yeah, that's the thing. You want to make that connection. You want to not be you want to approach in person so that you have like a face, you already have kind of that initial connection. It's just a smoother transition on the date. Some other good first date ideas. A lot of guys talk about Dave and Buster's. Dave and Buster's seems to be a good idea. Just because you can kind of play some games, you can move around. It's a place where you can lead interaction. So, yeah, I think Dave and Buster's makes a lot of sense. I guess that you could drop some more money there, but at least you'd have a good time, play some games. Even if you don't like her, she's a little weird or just, I don't know, something's off with her. Yeah, you can at least get some games in you, get some food in you. Yeah, so Dave and Buster's tends to be one of the go-to first dates, kind of like the Chuck E. Cheese for adults, if you will. So yeah, Dave and Buster's certainly is up there. But yeah, I'm going to wrap with that, guys. Thanks for tuning in to BP Insights, and stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.